Okay, we've got another dance update. God, dancing has turned out to be just the coolest, most effective, most fun spiritual practice, because I get to see in my movement and in how I feel the effects of the work that I'm doing, you know, the emotional work and the growth, self-development, things like that. So it puts it in such plain language for you. It's the perfect feedback. Okay, so last night was my ecstatic dance night. I get it once a week, you know, I'm best case scenario once a week. And so right now, I feel terrific. I always feel so good following the dance. I'm tired and I'm sore, but I feel fantastic. Now, I had this moment when I was dancing where I realized that I kind of knew this already, but this was a new level. I realized that if I moved from here as like the source of the movement, as opposed to a sort of a brain first movement where I think it and then I do it. This was more like, oh, what if the place right here, what if that was in control and that led the movement? And the way that looked was something kind of like this. Hold on, let me try and make this. Okay, so I'm there dancing, and it's sort of like, you know, sending my heart this way and then around and then back, and you know, getting a lot of this rotating wave-like movement, right? It's a different way of conceptualizing the movement. And when I did that in real time there during the dance, it made my movement really fluid. And it felt fantastic. And by the way, I did smoke cannabis before the dance, so I've got that extra boost in my ability to be in my body and just, you know, let things come out. So I'm doing this sort of heart-motivated movement, and it's great. It's flowing. But in order to do that, I have to leave my brain behind. It's like I have to say, you know what, I'm gonna come back to you later, but right now, I'm just gonna turn that off and move. I'm kind of resisting saying this, but you could say move from the heart, something like that. So I'm doing that heart movement, and I'm getting this great flowing motion. And it feels like I'm in water. It feels like I'm in the ocean, and these waves are moving me, okay? And I'm realizing that it's almost like I am surfing on waves that I am making. So when I turn off my brain and I let my heart lead the movement, my whole body is following my heart. Or, you know, that sounds weird when I say that, but you could say from my center, you know, that center motivated movement. When I move my center first and just let the rest of my body follow it, then it seemed like, I was like, oh my God, I am making waves. And then my whole body gets to ride that wave. So that ended up being my movement, my dance. I did that, you know, for a long time during the dance. And it's fantastic, and it's wonderful, and you know, I could even tell intuitively that it looked good. It's a movement that is, it's just a beautiful, smooth, integrated movement. And if I were moving in some other way that was more mental, like trying to do a movement, it's broken up and it's not integrated. It doesn't flow, and I'm definitely not surfing on waves. Anyway, So where that led me was, I was appreciating how the heart-based movement, that wave-like movement, was basically no effort involved. Once I turned my brain off and was doing that heart movement, it's just, I gotta use the phrase because it's the easiest one. Once I was doing that, it was easy. There was like no effort put into the movement, which, then led me to appreciate how much effort was being made normally to not do the movement. Does that make sense? So it's like I'm working. I'm actually putting in effort to hold myself back from that movement. And then, as I'm thinking about this on the dance floor, I'm realizing, and I'm putting in effort to prevent a lot of things from happening, like smiling. I realize, I'm spending so much energy managing what I do, when in fact, the default, the thing lying underneath all of the management, is like, I feel good, I move with flow, and I'm smiling or laughing, something like that. And it's all of my effort is actually going towards keeping me small, keeping me quiet, keeping my emotions off of my face. That's where my energy is going. And it's a wild thing. So then it's like, okay, why is that? Why is my subconscious putting out all of this massive expenditure of energy and, just brain power on preventing me from moving my body, preventing me from showing things on my face, preventing me from just being happy and showing joy? Why is that? And this is where being a parent is just so incredibly helpful to the process of getting to know yourself and just learning about reality. Because I see the process happening with my kids. I see it happening when a child is too much. They get the message from the adult that they're being too much. They're too loud. They're being too destructive. There's too much going on, and they get that constantly. I do it with my kids, and I see it everywhere. I see other parents and other adults do it with kids constantly, where kids get the message that the wildness, the aliveness isn't okay. It's not allowed. It's not appropriate. It's never the right time or the place, and they get shut down all the time. And I think that creates this, it creates this defense network in their psychology that says we have to prevent that from happening. We can't be this, we can't be that. We have to turn down the volume on this. And it's all of it is taking this exuberant 360-degree life force, and it's tamping it down, and it's making them less vital, less bright. And so here I am, 40 years old, and I'm trying to figure out how the fuck do I turn my light on again? And it turns out that, for me, dance was just such a perfect way, a perfect lens to view this problem through. because well, I already said why, because it's so immediately obvious. And it's something that I wanted. Even though I relatively recently hated dancing, just hated it, made me sick. The thought of it was just like, God, no, anything but that, please. Made me so uncomfortable. But when I decided that I actually wanted to, even though it was still awful, I wanted it to be good, and I started exploring with that, and happened into using marijuana intentionally to try and loosen up. Like, how on earth do I get my body to start moving again? Which, led me down a lot of really amazing paths. There's so many things coming together just coming together in my life now, where I get to see, like, oh my God, my emotional work that I've been doing, my movement work that I've been doing, which is kind of the same thing, and then mixed with being a parent, being a husband. It's like I have so many things that are showing me, that are reflecting back to me what's going on with me. And so I'm experiencing a lot of things now. So it's cool, it's great. But when I think back to why I wanted to start to dance, what led to that original motivation, it's because I felt held back. I felt so restricted. It's like I couldn't just be, and I was so self-conscious, like just crippling self-consciousness. It's constant. I couldn't, if I was at a party, I was not fun to be around because I was just self-conscious the whole time, which meant that I shut myself down. I was totally shut down. And somebody who's shutting themselves down like that, it's not fun. And I'm making sure that I'm not doing too much, so I'm being small, I'm being quiet, I'm pre-checking everything that I say, so nothing feels natural. I'm judging everyone else because I'm judging myself too. And I was just so diminished. And then just going like, why do I feel so just mucked up and unable to flow? Like, where's my energy? Where's my drive? Where's my passion? All of that shit. And it's pretty great now because I'm seeing how my movement in the dance tracks so closely with everything else in my life. The more I'm able to let out the movement in a way that proves that, oh, in these moments right there, I wasn't self-conscious. I effectively lose myself. That's the cool thing about the dance. When you do it with that full body commitment and you get your brain out of the way, then you cease to be you, because the you was a made up idea anyway. It's an idea, it's a fantasy in our heads. Like, oh yeah, I am Dylan Boy and I do all of these things. I love nature and I love movement and all this stuff. It's all just an idea. And when you drop it in the movement, when you let the movement take over, then you cease to be you, and then you're just the movement. You just are. This is I don't know. I feel like this has a small chance of landing. I wonder what I would have thought if I heard somebody rambling like this about dance and movement and emotions and everything. If I had heard this, 10 years ago, would it have done anything to me? That's an interesting idea. Like, what would have gotten through to me back then? And I think the only thing that would have helped is to experience somebody that I would look up to being that free. And I would need to feel safe enough to ask them, to talk to them about it. Be like, hey, how do you do that? And they would need to have the self-awareness and the sensitivity and everything that would be needed to tell me what movement is and what the self is. And and I don't know, maybe they could tell me about how the only thing you're worried about in all of your self-consciousness, all of the managing, you're just worried about judging yourself. You're the only one that's doing the real judging here. And you can choose to drop it at any time. You can just be like, oh, I don't need to judge myself. I can just be. So I want to do some more thinking on that, about how, like, what might have actually reached me, and what constitutes real value here. You know, what moves the needle for somebody, if somebody out there is feeling really blocked and restricted, and they just kind of want to burst out, but they don't know how. They feel like they can't do anything without just being crippled by the self-consciousness. That's a real problem, and I have a lot of compassion for that person, because that was me, and it still is me, depending on the moment. You know, right now I feel pretty loose and good because I danced my butt off for a couple of hours last night, and it's an amazing reset emotionally, and it just it'll buoy me for the rest of the week until the next one. Consider that your movement in the context of dancing, kind of free-form dancing, not like a specific type of dance, not dancing with a name attached to it, just letting music move you in any way. That's just a wonderful way to look at, hey, what's going on inside of you? Are you able to allow yourself to move? Because I didn't understand that about dancing. I didn't know that dancing was almost like doing nothing. I thought you had to learn how to dance. But that's not it. It's about, can you learn to do nothing and just let the dancing happen? So there's my dance lesson. I'll do a dance update soon where I actually show me dancing. It's in some ways you might be like, oh wow, you're doing really great, and in other ways you'll be like, wow, you're not that good of a dancer, and they're both true. It's just the way it is. I'm learning this stuff, and there's so many levels. Each time I go to ecstatic dance, I get another level. I get deeper. I'm like, oh my God, I got access to more, and that was so cool. And next week I'll experiment in some other way. Like, hey, what happens if I move like this or whatever? It's such a fun laboratory to play with, and I just can't say enough good things about it. It's almost like dancing is a human thing to do. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up there. How long was that? 20 minutes. Wow, look at you, I'm watching a 20-minute video. Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye.